Welcome to Across Africa, our weekly look at stories from across the continent. I'm Georgia Calvin-Smith, and this week in Rutshuru, DR Congolese families have been fleeing clashes between M23 rebels and soldiers. The International Committee of the Red Cross has set up phone booths to help the displaced to track down those left behind in combat zones. Also, a new film is out in France that focuses on the Senegalese tirailleurs, a corps of colonial infantry in the French armies of the First and Second World Wars. We hear from those in Senegal still honouring the bravery with which the men fought. And 8 years after 276 girls were abducted from Chibok in northern Nigeria, and 108 are still missing. A gallery in Lagos pays tribute to them with an exhibition of poignant sculptures. But first, communities in eastern DR Congo say that a withdrawal recently announced by M23 rebels terrorizing their communities has not been effective. Clashes between the militia and the Congolese army continue, and in Rutshuru, families have been fleeing the violence. In the chaos, loved ones often lose contact with each other. The International Committee of the Red Cross has set up phone booths to help the displaced track down those left behind. Our correspondents report.
Mathilde Nyabazande arrived alone at the Kanya-Ruchinya camp after fleeing fighting between the Congolese army and the M23 group. After 4 weeks with no news from her family, she finally reached her daughter.
Do you hear me? Are you in good health? I was very worried because the situation is not good. She told me that everything was fine and that she was looking to come here to the camp with my grandchildren.
Many displaced people from the Rutshuru territory have lost contact with relatives. This phone booth was set up to allow them to keep in touch.
089.
That day, many people wanted to call.
We note all calls on a comment form. In 3 hours, we already registered 80 free calls. We generally reach 120 calls per day.
Many times, a piece of paper with hastily written numbers holds people's only hope to reach a relative. This young woman was unlucky.
My brother-in-law does not answer. I have no news from my sister nor from her children. The fighting continues in Rutshuru territory. I'm very worried.
5 similar telephone booths have been set up in camps in North Kivu. Priority is given to children who fled the fighting on their own. It's almost impossible for them to reunite with their parents as long as the fighting continues.
We try through the phone and the volunteers we have in different places to reunite these families.
Since October, more than 500,000 people have fled Rutshuru territory according to the UN. All live in camps in difficult conditions.
Here in France, a newly released film has for the first time dramatized on screen the exploits of the hundreds of thousands of West and Central African soldiers that fought for France in the World Wars. They were known as the tirailleurs, and that's the French name of the film. It focuses on the story of a young Senegalese soldier conscripted into the French colonial army in World War I and of his father, who enrolls voluntarily to try and find him. While the recruitment of black Africans for the corps known as the Senegalese tirailleurs wasn't limited to Senegal, our team did go to the country to take a closer look at how the brave fighters are remembered there.
Fascicule de mobilisation. Ndiaye Abdoulaye, Saint-Louis du Senegal.
Pape Abdoulaye Nyan has been careful to preserve these documents.
Voilà, ça c'est le grand-père.
His grandfather was a decorated hero of the First World War, fighting for the French at heavy personal cost.
1914-1918.
It was during this war that he lost both his eyes. He was sent home to Senegal.
His niece, now 90 years old, remembers his return.
He was ill all the time. All the way through to his death, the doctor would pull out pieces of shrapnel from his body.
Around 170,000 West and Central African men were recruited by the French during World War I, many of them by force. At least 150,000 were recruited during World War II.
France owes them a debt of blood. At one point, they were told that by spilling their blood for France, they would gain full citizenship rights. a promise that France didn't respect. Many soldiers came back from the war and weren't even paid pensions despite having shed blood and contributing to the dawn of the free world.
Omar Ba tries to keep the memory of these African soldiers alive through his paintings. The internationally acclaimed artist is himself the grandson of a Senegalese soldier.
A tree without roots does not remain standing. I think that the youth needs these roots to be able to stand strong and grasp the future. I think that the African youth needs heroes, African heroes.
Senegal commemorates these soldiers, known as tirailleurs, on the 1st of December each year.
A contemporary art gallery in Lagos, Nigeria, is showcasing a powerful exhibition in tribute to the hundreds of schoolgirls still missing since they were abducted by Boko Haram extremists from the northern town of Chibok 8 years ago. Our correspondent reports.
It is impossible for these women to contain their emotions in front of these sculptures. Their daughters are among the former Chibok schoolgirls still being held by Boko Haram. Despite 8 years of suffering, these mothers have agreed to have 108 faces of Chibok girls being sculpted for posterity.
I'm more than happy today because I think even it's not by this year, even for next year or another second next year, even after 10 years, I'm expecting my daughter coming out because of molting of this thing.
Prue Nuri is directing this performance. The visual artist is inspired by the Yoruba craftsmen of the 15th century. She shows the right gestures to these Nigerian students. The world-renowned sculptor, Prune has been working on this project for many years before collaborating with the University of Ile-Ife and its Department of Fine Arts.
I wanted this project to happen in Ife, but I didn't know which artisans to work with. There are no craftsmen here anymore. But the university made sense. We fell in love with the art department professors who have an incredible philosophy.
These 108 heads of Chibok girls express a strong message against male domination. And this installation is essential according to this young woman. Amina Nkeki is the first former Chibok schoolgirl to have escaped from the Boko Haram den. She fears the indifference around the fate of the Chibok girls still held hostage.
I feel it to be helpful for them because when everybody in the world see these things, they'll still have, so people are still talking about these Chibok girls, even though that government has been quiet for now. It's not talking about our Chibok girls.
Prue Nuri wants to break that silence. These 108 clay heads will travel across Europe, America, and Africa so that the memory of the Chibok girls isn't lost to history.
A Grammy Award-winning Kenyan musician has created a one-stop shop for artists to share their work and track and make money. Bien-Aimé Alusa's Hustle Sasa online platform has been going for a little over a year now and has already brought together a keen community of fans. Caroline Lambaudet tells us more.
One app that does it all. Artists and creatives using Hustle Sasa can stream their music, but also sell branded merchandise, concert tickets, and other services. Kenyan musician Bien-Aimé Alusa says it's filling a gap left by other platforms.
It takes a while on those platforms to build because even how they're billing it is disadvantaged to East Africa. Our region has one of the lowest payout rates in the world from other streaming platforms. But on Hustle Sasa, you're getting value for money in real time. You can't go and withdraw your YouTube cash immediately at your own leisure.
Kenyan musician Yaba says the app's streaming service has allowed him to make more money faster.
The musician who is fighting his way to the top when it comes to streaming, it's not like the other platforms do not make musicians money. It's only that you need numbers, and numbers take time.
The app isn't just for musicians. It's also being used by creatives in several fields. The owner of the shop in Nairobi says it's helped her to expand her business online. Customers place orders via the platform, and within minutes, the sale goes through. The founders are hoping Hustle Sasa will grow and reach other countries. They're now in talks to develop operations abroad in Ghana and in South Africa.
The lid of a 2,700-year-old sarcophagus has been returned to Egypt 15 years after authorities there say that it was smuggled out and put on display in a museum in the US. Over the last decade, Egypt's been ramping up efforts to recover lost artifacts. In 2021, it managed to get back more than 5,000 from across the world. Take a look.
It's one of the largest wooden sarcophagi that's ever been discovered. Around 3 meters long and nearly a meter wide, the lid alone weighs nearly 500 kilograms. Egyptian authorities say that the green sarcophagus could have been made for an ancient priest. On Monday, the lid was officially returned to Egypt.
Today, we received an important ancient artifact that was looted and smuggled from Egypt to the United States a few years ago. Through the joint efforts of Egyptian, international and American authorities, and after more than 2 years of investigations, we were able to get it back.
Egypt and the U.S. have signed several agreements in recent years to fight against the smuggling of artifacts. Over the past decade, Egypt has recovered around 29,000 items, an effort that's received support from the United States.
There is outstanding cooperation between the United States and Egypt, especially in the area of cultural patrimony and the return of antiquities. The United States has also invested more than $100 million over the last 30 years in preserving and helping Egypt preserve its cultural and historical patrimony.
But for the green sarcophagus, it's only the start of the return journey home. The artifact was damaged as a result of being smuggled. Authorities are now planning to bring it to the Egyptian Museum in downtown Cairo for restoration.
She looks really stressed out, poor thing. That is, though, all we have time for Across Africa. Thanks very much for joining us. Do so again. Till then, take care.